You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rolinson and I'm joined as ever by James Rushton. James, how are you, mate?
All good, thank you. Yeah, no, nothing happening in the world of Aston Villa, which is nice.
Yeah, I wish. Well, it's bad news on the podcast. So we've got Mat Kendrick back, the bearer of bad news, the doom and gloom of the podcast. Matt, it's been, I think you did Tommy Johnson a few weeks ago, and before that it was the end of season review. Not seen you for a while. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm glad to be back. What's it for? We starting Phil Foden, is it? I haven't got the memo. What's happening?
No, it's currently Friday the 30th of July. The new away kit's come out. That's all we're here to talk about. That's the only thing of any note today that we'll go into. No, all jokes aside, we're here to talk about Man City and Jack Grealish, obviously. Various reports come out of a bid today. And this podcast is probably going to be a bit of a mess. Let's get out of the way first and foremost. We haven't done it live, as some of you will obviously notice, because this might need a bit of editing and a bit of fine-tuning, because there's so many different varying reports going around at the moment. I'll just come back from Villa Park. I've just got the away shirt for those that aren't watching. I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see, first of all, 100 million bid. Then I see no release clause. Then I see there is a release clause. Then there's 90 million plus a player, and it's some Man City Youth Academy prospect I've never heard of. So there's been a bid of some kind. We don't know the actual details on what it is. John Percy says it's 100 million. So first of all, Matt, we'll start with you, your initial reaction to that, because whatever the details are, we all knew a Man City bid was coming at some point.
Yeah, if John Percy says it, then...
that's about as good as it gets at the moment.
It's gospel, yeah. He's the journalist I always wanted to be, was never quite good enough to be. But no, it's gathering momentum now, isn't it? You know, it's been... I know we were guilty of it because it's our industry, but there's been a lot of newspaper reports and speculation for years now, hasn't there, surrounding Jack Grealish. We get to the summer months, don't we? And when the new kit's out, you know, people are like, well, okay, it's a nice kit or it's a crap kit, but can we see Jack Grealish wearing it? Preferably handcuffed to a desk at Bodymore Heath with a lifetime contract in his hand. So we're no strangers to this. I think what's happening now is that Villa are reaching D-Day now because they're really 100 million quid would test your resolve, wouldn't it? Even if you're a billionaire like Nassef Sawiris or Wes Edens. I don't know. I think I've tweeted some crap Oasis reference. I can't remember what was it? It was something.
Do you want me to read it out, Matt?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, read it out. What was it?
It's something like, I hope this isn't the day they throw it all away or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I hope today is not going to be the day they're going to throw it all away. Which, of course,
yeah, maybe.
There's a famous lyric from those big Villa fans.
Yeah.
So, but it is that, isn't it? We do think. Not throw it all away, because there's been so much progress being made under the current regime, but it's a statement of intent, isn't it? Of course, Aston Villa are bigger than Jack Grealish. Of course, Aston Villa are bigger than Jack Grealish's calves. But in terms of where Villa are at, what do we want to be? What do we want to be? Do we want to be a club that really can challenge in the top 6, top 4 within the next couple of years? And how stubborn can we be? How firmly can we dig our heels in? We've seen this happen so many times, haven't we? That we clamour for our players to be recognised and to get into the England squad. And then when they do, we're very proud that it's happened. But it also sets the alarm bells ringing, because we know that there's going to be a nice kind of shiny Mercedes waiting outside Bodymore with blacked out windows, ready to whisk those England internationals up the M6. We've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it with Stuart Downing, with Gareth Barry, with Ashley Young, with James Milner. You know, it's an often trod path. Our star players disappear into the so-called Northwest powerhouses. Can this be the one where we buck the trend?
Well, the difference with those is that we all thought it might be different with Jack Grealish because he's got the affinity to Villa that the others don't have. This whole conversation, though, has to be prefaced with what if there's a release clause or not. Because if there is, it's not whether Villa aren't ambitious enough or whether the owners aren't ambitious enough. If Man City have stumped up the cash that was inserted into a contract last year, they can't really do anything about it, can they?
Well, they can't. Jack Grealish can.
Well, what do you think, Jack? I mean, we don't know. Jack's his own man. He's on holiday at the moment in Croatia, I think. What is he going to be thinking?
Side, mate, I think he's gone on holiday in Moss side, I've heard.
Is he going to be thinking, well, here we go, time to go and play for Pep. I'll probably win a trophy next year. I'll establish myself, get into the European, get into the England side again, more established, be a superstar, be on FIFA covers, be on Pepsi adverts. Do you know what I mean? Like everything that a pro, big, massive footballer has. Or is he thinking, part of me feels like now it's like official that there's a proper realistic bid gone in, that now I'm starting to think, oh, what if this like got unsettles you a bit and think, oh, am I making the right decision here? Shall I stay where I am? What's going through Jack Grealish's head this afternoon, do we think?
There's a part of me that wants to say, like, sometimes bids go in and no one notices, but that's not the case, is it? You always hear, oh, it's a bid made, even if it's like Wesley and stuff comes out like nowhere. There's always a bid made. So it being kind of real, not like it wasn't before, but it being real and hearing about the bid, it's, you always, I think I said on the podcast, like, it's win-win, all this and all the bright stuff, but a bit nervous, actually. I know, like Matt rightly said, no player's bigger than the club, but with Jack Grealish, he comes pretty damn close, doesn't he, actually?
Yeah.
You've got an actual, genuine superstar, bona fide superstar playing for the team, someone of the highest caliber, not just in terms of skills on the pitch, but they're also their appeal off it, which is, I don't know if we've ever had that before, and feels like it all been on his shoulders now, and it just been, you could just sign a contract on a whim and it's done and you're off to Man City and that's that. And we're all left here picking up the pieces. So it's a scary time for some Villa fans. Some might just not care, but I think the majority, like if you're like me, will be pretty nervous. Still optimistic, but still pretty nervous about the reality of it all, Dan.
There's always that little slither inside me that thinks, well, until it's officially done and he's holding up a shirt of Man City or sat at a contract table with Villa, I'm not going to get too carried away yet. But I don't know, just there's a part of me that just thinks that appeal of Pep and winning trophies is, if I take away my Villa bias for the moment, I've got 3 shirts in shot at the moment and posters with Jack Grealish up on the background of this shot, and he's the star boy. There's no taking away from that. I'm not all of a sudden going to come on in and go, well, you know what, he's not that good anyway. He's not worth 100 million. I'm not bothered. He is. He's truly brilliant. We all know that. I don't know. I just think if I'm not biased, that pull of Man City is too much for Villa, for Grealish to not consider it, I think, because Villa can't offer him what Man City can and maybe won't ever be able to in his career. Sorry.
I think these 4 scenarios here for me, and if I'm an old man, so I might not remember all 4 of them. I'll probably lose my way halfway through, but 4 scenarios are: you can be Matt Letizia and stay at the club that you love and earn a good living and become an absolute folk hero, but have a rather empty mantelpiece when it comes to trophies. You can be, the sweet spot is, you can be Steven Gerrard and you can be at a club you love. And although he didn't win the Premier League title, he did all right, didn't he? In terms of medals and competitions. You can be Dwight York, who left to go to Dwight York, Gareth Barry, I suppose, who were big heroes, not with any kind of childhood-born allegiance to the club, but who developed allegiance to a club, but left and were vindicated by going and winning things. I mean, Dwight York won a treble in his first season. Or you could be the 4th option, which I suppose is a Fabian Delph, who goes but becomes a bench player at best, probably gets a little bit richer off the back of it, probably has some reflected glory around the edges of things that are won. And it's, what does Jack Grealish want to be? I'm sure he'd like to be the Steven Gerrard that wins things at his own football club, so that it seems even sweeter. But you've got to weigh up what's the realistic prospect of that. I think if we're being realistic, he's probably going to be, of those 4 scenarios, he's probably going to be the Mat Letizia who stays and competes at a good level. Maybe Villa fluke. Perhaps I'm being a bit too cynical and a bit too negative, but I don't think Villa are going to win league titles or Champions Leagues in the next 5 years, which is the prime of Jack Grealish's career. That is probably me just being a Claret and Blue cynic.
No, I agree with that.
So the next thing is, can he can he be a Dwight York and can he go and win? Can he go and win trophies quickly and have that legacy and absolutely maximise his talent at the very, very higher echelons of the game? I don't know. It's like you said. It's all become now. John Percy has spoken. It's all become which is worth more than a press release from official press release from a club. It's all become very, very real. And if it is Jack Grealish's decision, what a decision that is.
It's a lot of pressure on him, to be fair, because he can't. I was going to say he can't win. I suppose can he win?
Can't lose.
No, well, he can. Well, yeah, because I think there was an element of Villa fans that will really seriously dislike him if he leaves this summer. I think at any point, I suppose. Oh God, it's such a difficult situation, isn't it? Because for the last 3 or 4 years, we've always said, well, maybe we'll get one more year out of him. In fact, we got, if you'd have said back in 2016, 17 that he'd still be here 4 or 5 years later and would go for a breaking, transfer record fee for a British player, you'd be quite surprised at that and think, well, another year in the Championship, he'll go for pennies to Tottenham for 10 million or something. That was a realistic thing at one point. So the fact we've even got this far is probably way more than we should have got out of him. But this feels like the most frustrating time for him to go because Villa, him finishing 11th in the Premier League with Villa is his best ever finish with the club in his time here. The most recent season just gone. We've never done expectations as well. So we're building towards something bigger than that, but it's hard to build towards something bigger than that without a player of his quality. And it's hard for Villa to break into winning trophies like the Premier League in the next 5 years when the big boys at the top pluck people like Jack Grealish away from potential suitors for a Premier League title. So it probably isn't going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years of Jack Grealish's footballing career. So if that's the option of never winning anything at Villa or going to Man City and competing on all 4 fronts next summer and probably winning a trophy within the next 9 months, then part of me feels like I hold your hands up and say, well, yeah, fair enough, go then. But you're at like the beginning of something with Villa here, and if you stay, you could be the difference of making it happen with Villa. So why jump ship now? That's the thing that disappoints me.
It's weird though, Dan, because we are, and we're a Villa podcast and we're Villa fans, so it's impossible to detach sentiment and that love for the badge and that love for the club. We can't do it. So, if people are expecting a completely rational conversation, well, they shouldn't by now. But what we're asking two quite different things of our owners and of our captain. We're asking our owners to be more ambitious than any Villa owners have ever been before by absolutely breaking the bank and to not only keep this guy, but to continue to build the team around him to try and keep pace with his ambitions. So we're asking them to go flat out everything. To Jack Grealish, we're saying, take a level off that. We want you to be ambitious, but not quite that ambitious. We want you to, do you know what I mean? We don't want you to be Champions League next season. This coming season, we want you to be Champions League in 2 seasons or whatever. And it's
you're asking Jack Grealish to build Villa to be a good Premier League competing side for after his career's over. You want this to be the foundations of Villa being brilliant for the next decade, and Jack Grealish won't be a part of it then. If he wants to help us manoeuvre our way into that area, he could still do that, but it's not going to be instant success for Villa, is it? Unless they go from 17th, 11th to top 4, which is a possibility in football because anything can happen. I'm not going to sit here and write off the next season when there's 38 games to be played. But I don't know, what do you think, James? Just give me something, because I don't know. I'm just going around in circles in my head. Like I said, I've just had a 40-minute train journey. I'm just going round and round in circles. I don't know what I think at this point.
I think it's I think we all project onto Jack Grealish and say, "Oh, we'll just stay." And I think if I was in the position, right now, my mindset would be you stay, but I'm never going to be in that. No one speaking about the situation is ever going to be in that.
We were doing this as a Facebook Live the other day, and someone said, right, you can go and be your job here, what you do now. You can go and do it for Man City for double the money. Would you do it or not? And I was like, no. And then I was like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I would. But I was like, well, it is a different level to do this for another club than it is to play for the club. But
yeah,
I'd like to think if I was a Villa fan playing for Villa, I would stay at Villa. But then Man City come and say, well, here's 300 grand. And you think, all right then. Yeah,
it's like the sky is the limit for him at City. But, what's that at Villa? Because are you going to get the statue built at Villa? You're going to have a stand named after you, and that is, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but that is the potential that Jack Grealish has. So, like a lot of new generation fans are saying he's the greatest ever at the club. A lot of older fans are saying he's the best he's ever seen, and you can't really compare because it was a different era, but that's the standing he has at Villa, and that's how much people care. And the fact that the Tottenham thing came in and he was 1 foot and one half a calf, massive calf out the door, and he's turned around. That speaks volumes. And the fact that we went up and he stayed in the season we went up, and he stayed the season, last summer, and it's just, if he stays, we're going to have to go through this anxiety, this exact situation. We're going to have this exact podcast next season and the season
we'll have to have it in January, probably.
Yeah, it's going to keep happening. And, if the world of football heals, it won't just be your Man City or be Juventus kind of selling their future to bring him in. Barcelona sell it, reorganising their finances to bring him in. Be everyone, it won't just be Man City. But the truth is, there's only one destination for him. If it's not Villa, and that is Man City, and now they've put the bid in, it's very real. So it's also become like a newly scary thing. But the choice is his, and it's not his agents. It's as much as we like to be, it's probably not his family's either. It's his, and it's on him, and he's got to weigh up what that move to Man City means, what it means for his legacy. He's gonna have to surefire achieve stuff at Man City to I don't know, repair his legacy. Is it damaged if he leaves? But in the eyes of Villa fans, I think they'll be a lot grateful for what he's achieved at Villa Park and what he's bring to Villa. But the club exists after, and the way Fabian Delph left hurt, and you saw the reaction. I was there when he came back with Man City, and I saw a woman holding up a big snake, a big cuddly snake thing, and just shaking it around. So people hated him. With Grealish, would it be different? Some fans genuinely don't think so, and we're not going to change any minds here. Everyone's entitled to what they think, but some fans, as you said, will see that legacy absolutely destroyed. Everything he has achieved at the club, and he has achieved a fair amount, it'd be gone, and that might be something on his mind as well. So we genuinely don't know. I think what keeps me comfortable is the way people speak about Jack Grealish, the way people kind of we've been reporting on it, say I think he stays, and I'm confident he stays. But my words mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. I'm just thinking, I think he signs a deal if Villa put the big enough deal on the table, and that from the sounds of it, they have.
Matt, anything to add? I'm just trying to think about what Jan has just said there. I don't think you get the same reaction to Delph. I think that would be mental for that to happen. It just doesn't. It's totally different for me. That. We've spoken a little bit about how you would perceive Jack Grealish if he does leave, or when he does leave. And I suppose we'll probably finish this podcast with that rather than go through it now. Some fans, if we take our bias away again, will say, what legacy has he got at the moment? He's finished mid-table with Villa. He's never played in Europe, and he's played 100 minutes in the Euros. And then he gets a big move to Man City to go on and win titles and then create a legacy that he'll look back on. People that aren't Villa fans won't think he's done anything with Villa.
So it's not like a tangible legacy, is it? It's not like...
Yeah, we understand what it is. As Villa fans, we know how important he is, but other people just go, well, he's done all right at Villa and then got a big move. Now he goes to win trophies. Now he's this worldwide superstar. Now he's the England hero. At the minute, people would just look at him and go, yeah, he's a very good player, but he's never going to achieve his potential with Villa. So, yeah, of course he moves on. That's the objective view. Us as bias will go, yeah, stay for Villa, be the legend, get the stand named after you. But does Jack care about that? Or is it just about trophies?
It's like an emotive legacy, isn't it? It's not like tangible, locked in gold medal legacy. So you move, the emotions are there to be damaged, and that legacy is there to be tied. I'm sure it's probably happened, not to this extent, but it's probably happened in Villa's past. Again, in our experience, Dan, it's you're Ashley Young moving and then coming back, thankfully. But Stuart Downing, James Milner, Gareth Barry, seen it over and over, arguably damaged the club. But I don't know about you, Matt.
I think, of course, he's going to have a legacy. I wouldn't say single-handedly, but he's those battered football boots that won 10 games that got us back in the Premier League against all odds of his legacy. The fact that he carried a team that probably wasn't Premier League ready to stay in the division is his legacy. The great goals, the great moments, the great assists, the great runs that he's done. I think with Jack Grealish, he will taint what's gone before if he leaves the club, because that's just it's almost like a a spurned lover, isn't it? You're going to have your heart broken if he goes. But I think Jack Grealish, if he goes, will go on and win things. I think he will go on and really shine at the very, very top level of the game. And I actually think, and this is not me advocating him going, far from it. I don't want him to go. I want to see him play for Aston Villa for as long as possible. But I think over time, if he does go, I think he can do. I think he loves the club so much that he'll be like Ian Taylor, who comes back and watches the club and supports the club. So I don't think that love. He'll be professional, and he'll make sure he respects the fan base of whatever club he's playing for. But I think over time, Jack Grealish would want to come back to Aston Villa anyway. I mean, I'm speaking as if he's gone, and I don't think it's that.
Yeah, it's difficult.
We're all speaking like he's gone, actually.
It's a bit like when we did the podcast last season during the end of the season, and you and me did a Matt after the games going, "Oh, Villa relegated, just get ready for the Championship," and then a couple of weeks later we're going, "Oh, yeah, we've stayed in the Premier League, happy days." Like next week we could be going reacting to him signing a new deal, and if he does, that's fantastic news for Villa. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of trying. First of all, we're just covering the news. There's been a massive bid. We've got to talk about it. But in my own head, I'm now just trying to get used to the idea that this is probably going to happen now. But it all depends on a release clause. Because if it isn't a release clause, we're 2 weeks away from the start of the season. Our owners don't need the money. We talk about ambitious owners. I would question their ambition if they accept a bid that isn't a release clause, because they don't need to. Why would you? Yeah. If there's a release clause where he has to go at 100 and Jack wants to go, you can't question the owner's ambition for that, because it's out of their hands at that point. If they accept a bid that isn't
written in a contract that says he must leave, we must consider and accept bids of X amount of pounds. There's only one other situation that can force that, and that's if Jack Grealish behaves like a fool.
Or transfer request,
goes in a transfer request, goes into a sulk. I don't see that happening. And
people talk about him downing tools and stuff. I don't see that happening either.
That would taint a legacy, to be honest. If he was, if he suddenly threw a strop, I don't see that. I don't see that side of his character.
No, I don't.
And I actually think, although, let's say that Villa turned down 125 million for him, and Jack had his head turned on international duty. He's with John Stones and Carl Walker and Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden and etc. And he thought, actually, I quite fancy a piece of that. I think Villa turning down a bid of 125 million quid to him, even if he wanted, he was quite tempted to go. He'd think, blimey, this club actually quite rate me, don't they? They've made me the best paid player in the club's history. They've turned down a British record transfer fee for me. I am sulking a little bit, but I'm going to get over that, and I'm going to repay this by doing what I've always done and giving my absolute best, by working hard, by training hard, by any kind of rough edges that need smoothing off from my game, by making sure that I'm maximising and optimising every bit of my potential. Because Jack Grealish, if he's made to stay at Villa against his will, and I can't believe I've even said that, because he wouldn't ever be made to stay against his will, but if he was a little bit frustrated, he wants to be England's main man. The next World Cup in 18 months. So we're not going to see a drop in the standards and the performances of Jack Grealish, regardless of what happens.
No, I think he's probably had one of his best ever seasons, to prove a point.
So I know we've all been speaking like he's definitely gone, and that's still probably not the case. But I think what gives me a lot of optimism is how Josh spoke when he was on AVFC Extra, and obviously being a Liverpool fan, he saw Luis Suarez leave and Felipe Coutinho leave. Coutinho went for probably a massively overinflated fee, but it was still a large fee. And how Liverpool reinvested that, they didn't win a title, did they, with Coutinho or Suarez, even though they came close. They won it with a different team that had built on that investment, and it was a united team under the direction of Jurgen Klopp. So, look, you can't compare Aston Villa to Liverpool, really, can you? Because the quality of squad is way different. But if that's the case, they didn't win it with arguably, two of their better players, two of the players that feature in the highlight reel. They won it with the reinvestments they made. Look, we've got Johan Langer, whose bread and butter is the exact thing, losing your best players. You scout the players, you lose them, you reinvest and you build and move on. This is just such a higher level, and it'll be a real test of the club's ambition. Because you want to see him fight tooth and nail to keep Grealish, but if that drags on into the new season till deadline day just for an extra 20 million, and it hampers the start of the season, do we really want that? Or would we rather cut the tie now, move on, reinvest, get going as quick as you can? Because as you said 2 weeks ago, one way or another, this has got to get resolved quickly unless you want to see him fight tooth and nail, and that might not be end with a positive result you really, really want. And so it's something to weigh up and consider. Even, we have no control over it, do we?
Yeah, I imagine it'll be sorted next week either way. He either signs a new contract or he's out the door early next week, I think. I don't think it drags on. I don't think the owners and Purslow will allow that.
Fingers crossed.
If they're accepting it because it's a release clause, or they're accepting it because they quite fancy 100 million, then just get it done and get it over with. Kind of rip the plaster off and bear the pain.
Just a couple of things on what James has just said there. It's interesting because you talk about Coutinho and you talk about Suarez, and I've heard people saying, if Jack Grealish goes, it proves Villa are a selling club. I don't think there's a football club in the world who's not a selling club, to be honest. And it's very interesting what you say about reinvesting as well, because look at the way Leicester City have been able to
mention them,
remodel themselves and upgrade. Kind of year on year when they've had some really big important players go. And I think, I'm harking back a long time into the past as I tend to do. But when David Platt went in the early 90s and Villa had knocked on the door of winning the title under Graham Taylor with David Platt. But when they sold him after he'd shone in Italia 90 and Villa then had got another season out of him. When they sold him, Big Ron was able to reinvest really, really heavily to reshape. And I know it's different times, but to reshape that Villa team who then went on to challenge again. So I don't want Villa. Whatever happens, I don't want anybody's legacy tainted. I don't want Villa fans to lose enthusiasm about the project, because if Villa sell Jack Grealish, they've been kind of backed into a corner by the lads' ambitions, or by release clause.
But does that say that Grealish doesn't believe in it though? So why should we? Why should other future transfer targets believe in it? If the boyhood Villa fan captain thinks, "Nah, I don't believe in it."
But it's a big stretch, though, isn't it? Because believe in what Villa going from Championship mid-table team to being able to win the Champions League in 5 years. That's Tony Jarr nonsense. That doesn't really happen. And if it does, and if Christian Purslow and the two others can convince Jack Grealish it does happen. What a sales pitch that is, and if they can go and deliver on it, brilliant.
But that's surely that's what they sold him 12 months ago when he signed his last deal.
I think the thing for me is what's changed in the 12 months after you said all that. And I know a lot of it is just you being in front of the camera and saying it really quickly. And this isn't like a slight on Jack Grealish or, Aston Villa's own as well. But what changes in the 12 months? Because we had a goal of finishing probably like 15th or 13th. And we blew that out of the water really with our performances. And we did drop off. But where did we finish? 11th. And we were arguing that we should have been in, fighting for European competition last season. We have delivered on that promise. So whatever has happened in the last 12 months, whether there's been a reality check or whatever in his mind, I just don't see.
Jack Grealish now knows that he's high profile, he's box office. He's had.
But he's box office at Villa now.
But he's had fans with different accents chanting his name. He's got X Factor. Nobody's making up stupid flirty. I just spat down the barrel of my camera. Making up stupid flirty songs about him. He's Hollywood now, isn't he? The rest of the world has sat up and taken notice of him. He's more, not more than it, but he's a big fish in a really, really big pond with Aston Villa. But now he's a big fish in the global game as well. So that's what potentially might have happened. What else has happened is that somebody's prepared to put the money where their mouth is. They're not just going through agents and doing little bits of fishing expeditions. They're actually prepared to write massive checks for him. So that's the one difference. This has gone from being a fantasy to being a reality. But I hope the tone. I've not been on here since 6 weeks or whatever. I hope my tone hasn't come across that I'm resigned to him leaving, because that's not the case. I still think this has got a few twists and turns. But it's become. I'm a bit more fearful than I've been before. In the pit of my stomach, I'm just thinking, all right, Jack, come on, let's see what you've got. All right, that's Evan Wes, let's see what you've got. I just want to see him play again for Villa.
As Graham Souness said, it's time to put your medals on the table, isn't it, and suss it all out. Because I think for me, the worrying thing is, the thing we should be worrying about is what Villa do if he stays, and what Villa do if he goes. And it's, this other thing is completely out of, I don't know to what extent the club have control over it if there's a release clause. But if there is a release clause, what we should be kind of concerned about ourselves about is what Villa do to move forward without Grealish, because if we're going to argue about reselling, that impetus then is on the club to prove, go see you, Jack, we're on to bigger things now, and then move forward in your own direction. If he stays, what can you do? And look, you don't need the money, but there's a cash flow element where the money does help. What do you do if he stays? You lose kind of that golden goose. How do you reinvest and get there? Get the same way anyway? How do you get the best out of Grealish and the players around him? So those are the two conundrums I'd rather concern myself around than whether he stays or goes, because that is something that is just, there, up in the air.
Villa are said to have had two plans, a window without him and a window with him, much like when we got promoted or in the playoffs. It's like, if we go up, this is the budget. If we stay down, this is the budget. So Villa will have known, if there is a release clause in there, they'll have known about it since last September, and will have planned to think, well, if he has a great season, someone could come in and pay that. How do you assess the ambitions of the ownership? Because again, this whole podcast has been speculation, really. But if there is a release clause in there, my initial reaction to that a couple of weeks ago on social media was the owners would be stupid to have agreed to a release clause. And a few people, it got a fair few likes on it. So I thought, there's people that agree with me, fine, cool. That's what social media is like. And I had a few people say, well, it's not really the owner's fault if they're kind of backed into a corner to include a release clause. And at first, it almost threw me a little bit, thinking, I don't know, I still don't disagree. But as time has passed, I understand where they're coming from now, because if Jack Grealish and his side of the deal, his agents and all that kind of stuff, say, we will only sign this deal if there's a release clause in there, the owners don't really have a choice to do that. And 100 million for a player that's only ever finished mid-table in the Premier League, or less at that point, is a massive fee. As much as we all say, he's worth 150, he's worth 200, his price is to Villa, it's still a record fee for a British player if he does go, until Harry Kane joins him there a couple of weeks later. So it's not like we've been undersold and he's going for 20 million to Tottenham and he's run down a contract or anything. Well, I almost feel like I'd prefer that at this point if we get a few more years out of him. But if he doesn't sign that last contract last season, he's probably already playing for Man United for 40 million, and he's gone in January of last year if the club say no to a release clause. So my opinion's changed on it. I don't think it's to do with the ownership's ambition. If there isn't a release clause, and I've said it earlier in the podcast, and they accept the first bid of 100 or the first official bid, or it's 90 plus a player or whatever it is, and that's their choice, I would question the ambition there, because especially at this time as well, 2 weeks ago for the season starting, that's a poor move to accept it if they don't have to, if there isn't a release clause. Jack Grealish was 15, 14 years old, and Martin O'Neill walked out just before the season started. He would have known how much disruption this will cause, how much disruption his move now would cause if he leaves. So the ball's in his court. If there is a release clause, if there isn't a release clause, then Villa should just be saying, no, we'll come back to you next summer, see what happens then.
Yeah, it should be just new phone, who's this? Just don't ignore every call from Man City.
Because if there isn't a release clause, he'll be worth more than 100 next summer, surely. He's got one less year on his contract, but
I mean, who knows what needs to happen though is that, he needs to sign that new deal and we can live in the best case scenario.
So what happens next then, Matt? If they put an official bid in today, do Villa come out as a club statement and say, we reject the offer? Do we just hear nothing and then we go, oh yeah, Man City triggered a release clause, Jack's on his way? What's the next step here? It's a Friday afternoon, Jack's supposedly back from holiday on Monday. What now?
I think you do what I'm about to do this afternoon. You stick your out of office on, close your curtains, you unplug your fax machine, and you just pack away for the weekend. We're led to believe that the dialogue has started, so Villa need to quickly assess what Jack Grealish's frame of mind's at, and it sounds a silly thing to say if somebody's bid £100 million, £100 million, blimey. Suss out how serious Manchester City are. And if we were better journalists, we'd know whether there's a release clause or not. Although, funnily enough, clubs don't tend to let you peer through the paperwork. GDPR, I'd have it if it wasn't for GDPR. I'd have this story served up to you all as an exclusive. But to me, if somebody wants to pay 100 million for him and there's no release clause, then you say to him, "You quite like this guy, don't you? How about you pay 150 million?"
Yeah, that's the step forward. If there's no release clause and the owners are ambitious, they say we want 150. Like Harry Kane at Tottenham, they said we want 160. You price them out of the move.
Yeah.
You're serious.
When they come back to 150, with 150, you say,
"You go actually
sorry, I meant 200."
Yeah.
There's a typo,
and you just do it like that. So, listen, this Manchester City's interest and now the firm bid won't have come as a surprise to anybody at Aston Villa. But they just need to, like I say, Jack Grealish's state of mind, and he's probably the most important thing in this situation, because I think we said this last summer, didn't we, Dan? We did a big podcast saying, here's the reasons why, Jack Grealish being at Aston Villa next season, it might not be the unlikeliest thing in the world. Here's why it could happen. And one of the things with that was, I've lost my train of thought, but I had something really interesting to say. What was I going to say, Dan? Edit this.
We'll keep chatting. You might come back with it in a minute. If he is to go, and this is probably more of a conversation to have when it does happen, and we might get Josh and David back on to discuss this, be a bit more objective about it as well. If it does happen in next week or the week after he's a Man City player, what does that say for Aston Villa going forward and their current players? Does that mean that we're going to be fighting off interest for Buendia next summer? Arsenal coming with 50, Martinez, Cash, Watkins, all these players that we're starting to build up this squad. Does this now put all eyes on Villa and go, well, look, if we chuck enough money at them, we'll just pick their players away?
That'd be the case anyway, wouldn't it? I don't know. How
but if Jack stays, though, if if it's up to us and there's no release clause and all that rubbish, and we say, look, forget your 100 million, we're keeping him, that then sets the precedent that Villa aren't about to be rolled over. And they're not being rolled over with Villa because it's 100 million, but just their players in general, you can't just come and take who you want. Whereas if Jack goes, it does look like that.
But if somebody wants something enough, if I want a big pork sandwich with gravy and applesauce and stuffing and a big piece of crackling, if I'm hungry enough, let's
Where's
say
this going?
Yeah, but let's say I'm down Blackheath High Street and I can probably buy it from a shop for £2. But if I'm at a festival and somebody's charging 20 quid for it, I'll go and buy it because I'm hungry enough. I don't think it matters what's gone before. If somebody wants something enough, they go and have it. So I don't think, I know what you mean. Is it suddenly a chink in Villa's armour that I think, they say they've got these rich owners, they say they've got these ambitions, but we've seen from the Jack Grealish that we can go and buy everybody. I don't think that's the case. I think, 12 months' time, and if somebody says, we want to come and buy Buendia, Villa might have been relegated or stayed up on the last game of the season or be in the Champions League, whatever. So things change. In terms of what I was going to say about Grealish, it wasn't as profound as I thought. It's come back into my mind. What we were saying last summer was that if Villa's valuation is met, and we don't know what the valuation is because we don't know the facts about a release clause. If Villa's valuation is met, Jack Grealish probably got enough credit in the bank with the Villa owners and enough of a grown-up relationship with the owners and the manager that he doesn't need to throw the toys out the pram, that they can have an honest and open discussion where he can say, listen, come on now, you're getting good money for me. But again, that all depends on if Villa's valuation is met. If Villa's valuation isn't met, either because there's something written in the contract or because the owners have got a number in their head, conversation over. I was going to say roll your socks up, but with Jack, it's probably roll your socks down. Roll your socks down and let's crack on with next season.
Anything to add, James, before I ask you one final question?
No, I was sure I had something profound and ranty and rambling to say, but I think Matt has summed it up perfectly.
Right then, we're going into hypotheticals here for if/when he leaves. How do you view Jack Grealish after he's gone? Do you care if he wins trophies? Are you happy for him? Do you never want to see him again? Would you boo him when he comes back? There's been a lot of talk on social media about when he signed his contract this year and he's my city, my club, my home and all that. And yeah, that will remain. He's still a Villa fan. He'll still be a Villa boy, whether he's playing for Man City or not. We've seen that with other players. It's not all of a sudden not going to be a Villa fan and be a massive Villa nut. But how do you assess him if he leaves, is my question to end on. And this is an if, because who knows, maybe this time next week we're talking about a new deal.
If he stays, he cements that living legend status, I guess. But if he goes, I think, again, some elements might have a reaction similar to Fabian Delph. They might be really angry because they feel like they've put a lot of trust in him. Some others will be, fairly happy that the saga's over regardless. I think where I lie is I don't, I mind. I feel no. When I saw the news of a breaking 100 million bid and it actually being a real thing, I was nervous. Almost got a paper bag out. I started breathing into it. But, the reality is that I didn't get an Aston Villa season ticket because Jack Grealish was there. I got it because Tim Sherwood was there. I didn't start supporting Aston Villa because of Jack Grealish because he wasn't, my dad
he's brilliant though, isn't he?
He is fantastic.
He's the future if he stays.
Listen to how people speak about Brian Little and Paul McGrath and, even David Platt. Look how people spoke about Ashley Young and Stuart Downing and James Milner. Everyone that you consider, Olaf Malberg, Martin Lawson, I know some people ended their careers at Villa, others went elsewhere. But every great villain, about 90% of them, their time at the club's going to be finite. It's going to be very limited. What we've got out of Jack Grealish is fine. And my view is the club exists. The reasons why you support the club, well, about 90% of us anyway. The reasons 90% of us support the club because it's Aston Villa, because we have a connection to it, and that connection, you don't choose, you were chosen, etc., etc. Exists regardless of Jack Grealish. The owner's ambitions, yeah, you're right to question them, but also the chances there for them to actually prove themselves if he does go. So we can get a lot of questions answered if he is to go. If he isn't, fair play, we can carry on being, Aston Villa aiming for the top. If he goes, maybe we continue as well. But look, I'm fine with it because I support Aston Villa regardless. And yeah, I'll be sad. Jack Grealish had amazing moments on the pitch. And I don't know where you place him, Matt, with the people you see him. But for me, Grealish, number one. So some of the stuff he's done on a football pitch, even against Bristol City in the Championship, you know what I mean? There's been the highlight of my match-going experience for the stuff happening on the pitch. So yeah, sour, it hurts, but I am there to follow the club and enjoy the experience I have regardless.
Yeah, in terms of me, if Jack Grealish left tomorrow, I'd love Jack Grealish. But if Jack Grealish stays and commits his future to Villa and commits his career to Villa and goes on to achieve what we hope he can achieve, I'll adore him forevermore. You know what I mean? I'm sure that won't be a factor in Jack Grealish's mind.
No, it will be. He'll be thinking, I really need Matt to say he's going to love
how
me.
much kudos
he's watching this to make his decision. So
he's like, Matt's coming to Mike's house with me.
But I think I want Jack Grealish to win something with Aston Villa. It can be a League Cup. It can be, and I'd love it to be an FA Cup. I'd love it to be a League Championship and a Champions League. But I don't know. There's some great players who have played for Aston Villa who haven't won anything, but to cement his place in that kind of pantheon of Aston Villa legends and greats, he needs to stay at Aston Villa and win something, for my mind. If we talk about who the greatest players that we've seen, it's probably a 50-50 shootout before Jack Grealish, arrived between Paul McGrath and Gordon Cowans. Now, Gordon Cowans obviously won the creme de la creme, the biggest prize you can win in club football. Paul McGrath had to settle for a couple of League Cups, but he was a winner with Aston Villa and was able to lift silverware. And I think that would just be the one thing that keeps Jack Grealish short of that if he leaves now. But I've got a strange bias anyway, because I've said this before, haven't I? When I tell this story, I always sound like I'm the bloke who watched Oasis. Probably a bad example, Oasis, but
I'm not listening to them ever again, by the way. They're banned.
Let's just
smash the vinyl. Noel Gallagher's high-flying birds out the window, mate.
Well, yeah, let's move away from the Oasis analogy. Let's say I'm the bloke who watched the Beatles when they were in a working man's club in Toxteth. So, because we've been on board with Jack Grealish very early on, I've developed a real kind of affinity for the guy, for his family anyway. So I'm not going to boo Jack Grealish when he comes back to Villa Park if he leaves, because I have respect for him wanting to kind of maximise his career. But again, we can't take sentiment out of it, can we? You know, why can't it be Juventus or Real Madrid or somebody who's a little bit further away?
Yeah, because they're all broken. They've got massive cash flow issues. So if you wanted to go to Juventus, we'll have to settle for a loan and 20 million.
That's it. We'll have a 10p mix and a packet of Space Raiders for him as long as he doesn't play against us in the Premier League.
Imagine that. I've only just thought about that. He'll have to play against us at some point. Okay, that's only just started to worry in my head.
That would kill.
That'll be grim. That will. Watching him play against us.
He's not gone.
Yeah, but I'm just getting there a little bit, because then
don't start the grieving process yet.
Yeah, but if then he stays, I'll be even more euphoric than usual. I don't know. It's a strange situation. I know what you mean about the family and the affinity towards him, and he's one of our own and all that, but Villa should be, and if this is release clause or not, they will be. They'll be doing everything in their power to say, look, this is why we think you should stay. This is what we're going to offer you. And then it's in his court to say yes or no. If they seriously think they can build a side together to win trophies, then yeah, maybe he will stay, and this time next week or the week after will be happy days. But if he does go and he has to play against us and he goes on to win stuff with Man City, I won't be bothered. I won't be happy for him. I won't think, Man City have won the Champions League, but at least Jack Grealish is winning trophies, because he's not a Villa player. I don't care after that. He's just another footballer.
I won't be putting my head off at it, but neither will I resent it.
No, I'm not. Yeah, like you said, I'm not going to boo him. I don't boo anyone really. But if he comes back and claps the whole end, I wouldn't think, what a snake for leaving. It does, and this is all still if, but it does feel like this season isn't the one to go, because this is the season that we hopefully build something. Yeah, I know that. But if we finish 17th next season, you say, well, Christ, we've got no chance of keeping hold of him. But then I'm not going to write off this upcoming season anyway if he does go, because Villa should be building the side to manage without him, because we're not the same team without him, and we have become a one-man team. When he doesn't play, we don't win. But with Buendia, and you sign Ward-Prowse and Bailey or whoever it is that comes in, I'm going to say it quietly, but maybe Villa are better without Jack Grealish, because they've been out of... No.
Don't try and reason with it.
What I'm saying is Villa have finished 11th with him because they haven't built a team yet, because we haven't had a chance to. If he stays and we build a better team, of course we'd be a better team with Grealish in it. What I'm saying is, if he does go, I'm not just going to go, well, he's gone, owners are unambitious, we're getting relegated next year. Because if Buendia scores 30 goals, we're brilliant next year, we will be better than 11th. So I'm trying to get used to the idea that he might go, but also not be so negative to just go, well, that's Villa ruined. Then we're going to be in administration in the next 3 years, because it's a downward spiral from here. Villa can build a team with that money. Villa would build a team with him in it. Of course they would, and they'd be better for that. I'm just trying to be realistic to say that if he does go, it's not the end of the world, because Villa have got hopefully the right people in place to reinvest that money like Leicester did, like Liverpool did, more so, rather than Tottenham did with the Gareth Bale money and spend it on losers that have gone on to do nothing.
Yeah, he'll be back anyway. You know, even if he goes to Man City or whatever and wins a quick clean sweep of trophies, he'll be back at Villa in his late 30s, early 40s. He'll, that kind of Sunday league player who just sits in front of the back four and pulls the strings. He'll have a knee brace on. He'll smell of deep heat. But he'll just, he'll be the absolute maestro. So we'll get to see him back anyway.
Maybe he could just go there next year, win everything in 1 year, get it all out of the way of Man City, and then 2023 comes back to us. Then he can say, well, I've won my trophies with Man City. Now I'm here with Villa, 27 years old, ready to go in my prime. Maybe that's the solution for all this.
Yeah.
They sign him and loan him back?
Yeah. Or no, they sign him and then say there's a clause in the contract that if we want him back, we could just come and take him when he's won everything. Yeah,
the season after he takes us to the 2030 Premier League title, he goes to Warsaw and the sun sets on the Besket Stadium with him lifting the League Two title as a 40-year-old.
I think that's, isn't it? We said before we did this, let's just have a 20-minute chat about the breaking news that there's been a Grealish bid, and we've ended up doing 50 minutes of what ifs and whens of
Like
when
a
he
therapy.
goes. It is a bit like a therapy. Yeah, I did say on Twitter, I just feel like we need to record something to get some thoughts down, and this has probably been an incoherent ramble. I've only noted down one edit point there when Matt just had an absolute brain fart, so I'm going to pretty much leave the rest of it as is. And
I think I've dropped the F-bomb, so can you clear that up?
Yeah, that'll definitely be out. But yeah, I'll let people dissect this how they want. Maybe my thoughts and opinions will change in the coming weeks and months and years ahead, and I'll look back on this with embarrassment that I was so quick to write off Jack Grealish's future career. I'll support him in an England shirt, by the way. But like I said, if he goes and wins,
look back on a lot of what we've done on the Claret and Blue. I think.
That's true. But yeah, we'll be back at some point next week. There's a pre-season friendly tomorrow if anyone cares. We've got Bristol City. We'll do something after that, I suppose. But yeah, we'll be back. The next podcast we do is probably going to be a new contract, or Grealish has gone, hasn't it? I've thought that's where this goes next.
What do we do in the meantime? Do we say this is the last word on Grealish apart from the Q&As?
I'm a little bit bored of the whole situation now. I do just want it resolved either way. I can't keep talking about
the viewing figures before we commit ourselves to that. I've still got some more words on it if needed.
Not for today though, because it's bloody boiling in here again. So we'll call it a day there. Thank you, Matt, for showing your face. Do appreciate it.
It's all right. I'm going to go and spend 25 quid on a pork sandwich now.
Yeah, you do you. Thanks, James, for your time as always. On a day off as well, so fair play to you. Thanks for that.
We have to do it, don't we? We have to speak about Jack Grealish and the big important news that he might stay on.
He's staying anyway. Let's just forget it.
Oh, come on anyway. I need something to eat.
Yeah, let's go. Thank you very much for watching this podcast. Leave your comments in the YouTube section of the comments bit down below. Oh, it's a ramble. Forget it. Let's get out of here. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.